So were you able to watch that video that I made?
I
Did you
watched
see it?
most of it, yes. I did.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Good.
I know it wasn't very
Yeah.
good, but it was hard to watch it while we were away, interruptions and whatnot.
Okay.
But anyway, yes, I watched almost all of it, and I definitely want to put a link to that video in the show notes for this coming week because it's
Yeah.
just so good. But
Yeah. I'll link to my blog because I believe I had links in there.
okay.
I say that at the very end that I linked to some things too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. I must have been in my 40s because I didn't move to Colorado until I was in my 40s, but I had a mammogram because that's what you're supposed to do after 40.
Absolutely.
And I had one done in Colorado in the springs. So it would have had to have been maybe 6 years ago, 2018, 17, 18. And I had one done and they said, wait, we have, and I told them when I had it done, I was like, I've got really fibrous tissue. So I just want to make that clear because I knew that I just know the squeezy, pinchy is going to pick up something because my tissue is so lumpy.
Mm-hmm.
I let them know that ahead of time, and then they sent me a letter and said, we have, there's been a detection of something and we need to do a second exam. And I wasn't the least bit concerned because cancer doesn't run in my family. And at the time I was, my eating was so different. I had no sugars, no anything. So I wasn't concerned at all, but I was like, all right, whatever. And so I went back in and had the second mammogram done, of course, which came back completely negative, but then my insurance didn't cover it. So I ended up having to pay for it. And I was so
Nice.
angry at the racket of why did you call me back in? Because there was nothing to worry about. I knew there was nothing to worry about. And I just started kind of looking into the whole mammogram thing at that point, and that's when I made the decision that I would never do it again. And I wanted to know why they pushed them so hard. And it's just part of that same, pharmaceutical medical industry racket that we live in where we've spent all this money on all this equipment. We have to find a way to pay for it. So we're just going to make people scared into thinking that they've got some problem. So they'll keep getting these procedures over and over again. And that's what I genuinely believe that is happening. Another part of that is the radiation that the mammograms are just shooting directly into your breast tissue. So hello, if you're going to get cancer, that's a really good way to get it. And, and it is
it's right there by your heart.
Yeah. And it's so incredibly invasive and gross. And you got somebody fondling your breasts, and it's just, there's nothing in my opinion.
It's very degrading.
It really is. I mean, it is just ew. So yeah, I made the decision at that point that I was never going to do it again. Now, having said that, you sent me that link the other day about the what's it called?
Thermogram.
Thermogram, which I'd never heard of before. And I don't know that I'll go get one, but but I think that it's highly important for our viewers to know what that is. And I mean, because I don't know one woman in the world who enjoys getting a mammogram.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either. And honestly, men can get them too because they can get breast cancer as well. Now, you don't hear about men getting them because they're probably not going to do that. It would be very painful.
World would they squeeze?
Also, right? I know, right? Or if they do have breasts, and that's, and the other thing is don't have that false pretense that, well, I've had mastectomies, I can't get breast cancer. That's not true, because you still have tissue there.
Yeah.
And I can give a story on that too before I talk about the thermograms. I was working with somebody who in Colorado, actually, when I was taking care of my mother with brain cancer, and she was helping somebody who had breast cancer. Now, she had both breasts removed, okay? And if that woman did not stay on track with eating the right foods and doing her protocol, whatever her protocol was, then that tumor would start growing again, but it would grow out the back.
Oh, wow.
It would be like visible. And when she would start cleaning up her diet and doing all the things again, it would reduce. So, listen to what I just said. When she did eat well and, follow a protocol of good health, that tumor shrunk. Now, she still had it. And honestly, we all have cancer in our body. So it's based on the fact of, are we feeding it or not, right? Yes. Because if we are doing things like eating a lot of sugar, a lot of carbs, that will feed cancer, because cancer absolutely loves sugar. It thrives on sugar. So, know that you do have ways that you can mitigate having cancer, even if you have it in your family. And with that said, my grandmother, I'm trying to think how old I was, probably 7 or 8 years old. And of course, I didn't know it at that point in time, but she had breast cancer, and she had 2 radical mastectomies at that point in time. And that would have been 60s, early 70s when that happened. So, okay. Not as prevalent then, but starting to come into play, because why? Well, that's when processed foods really started kicking in, was during that time, right? So because of that, and there's family history of me having cancer, especially breast cancer in my family, they came after me too. You have got to do a mammogram every year. And mine started in my late 20s.
Yeah. And
they wanted me to do it every year to make sure, because I have the family history of it. So, so I did, up until the point of, and this is very interesting. So my mother was very much in a holistic path. She did live in Colorado, where there were, I would say they have more to offer maybe in Colorado. I know they do than Florida, allow more holistic things to happen. So she had actually been having thermograms, and you can have a thermogram for your whole body, or you can have it just of your chest or your, upper area, or, if you have areas that feel inflamed, you can do that also. So a thermogram is something that you can do instead of a mammogram. It actually picks up cancer, and I can't remember the numbers, but it's like the size of a pinhead is when it will pick up cancer, because it's all based, it's thermo, so it's based on heat. Or with a mammogram, it's like the size of a pea when it will pick it up. And we'll link to, I did a video and a blog all about it, and we'll link to that there so that you can go in and you can listen and read the information I have. I have links that you can look at, because I'm going to say right now, this is, you have to do your own research. You have to decide what's best for you, especially where, medical is concerned. Check out all your options, because there are options, but a thermogram will pick it up a lot earlier. And so, and they've done a lot of testing with it. And a thermogram kind of looks like, when you see the weather patterns and you see red and yellow and blue and white, green, etc. That's what a thermogram looks like. So this camera, it's a special camera, is picking up heat. So it knows where there's hot spots in your body. And that could be anywhere. It could be in your breast, it could be in your neck, it could be in your shoulders, especially, some of us that carry a lot of stress in our shoulders. Mm-hmm. It picks up a lot of heat in that area. But so the way that it works is you go in and I'm in Florida, so we have to really, really cool our bodies down. You're not allowed to, do any exercise that morning, wear deodorant. It's just, or lotions or anything. You have to, just not do any of that. Nothing to, like, don't take a hot shower right before you go, because it's going to heat your body up. So we go there, and the room that it's in, they cool it down big time. So it's very air conditioned. But depending upon what area you're going to have done, like if you have your breasts done, basically you're stripped to your waist just like you do with a mammogram. And you're cooling off during that time because you got a lot of heat in your underarms and everything. So you sit there like this for a while, getting cooled off in all the areas, and she'll check, the heat through her special camera. And so then, and the camera is not like taking nude shots, it's taking heat shots. Okay. It's not like one of those cameras. So, so that's basically the way it works. And she takes all different angles to see, where the heat's coming, or, different, if there's heat, what is it looking like? And then they give you the results like within, I say, a week. And then if there's anything that's suspect, and the first time you do it is kind of like a baseline for them. Here's what she looks like. So like with you, with all the fibrous, they'd be like, okay, here's a baseline. And then the next time you might come back in 6 months to check again and see, has anything changed? After that, it's typically like a year. You'll go a year between. And the unfortunate thing, just like anything that's healthy, holistic, healthier, it's not covered by insurance.
Of course not.
Surprise. And think about that too. Why? They're not going to make any money off it, because we might find cancer sooner and be able to mitigate it in healthier ways. So, I mean, that's basically the way it works. It's not, they're not touching you, they're not squishing you. And that's the other thing is, like, if you have something the size of a pea or bigger lump in your breast, and they're squeezing you with a mammogram, that can break and it can metastasize. So, think about that too. You've got the radiation, you've got the potential for, something metastasizing. So there's just a lot of concerns around the whole mammogram thing. And I started about 10 or so years ago, I would say, when I started doing the thermogram. But my mother had been doing them for a while and had found one. And I'll link to the place that I use. And then if you can't find somewhere in your area, you could probably at least call them and ask, what, I live here. Is there anybody you recommend? And I'm in Central Florida, and what they basically have is they go to a lot of different holistic places. So they're actually based out of, I think, the Tampa area, and they travel over to the Central Florida area, and they go to like chiropractors. They go to my functional medicine practitioner's office, just different places, and set up for a day, and then take, do the thermograms.
Doing a quick search for thermograms in Orange County.
Okay. Well, in California, I kind of feel like they might have more opportunities. It's interesting, as like shut down as California is health-wise, they have more options sometimes than we do. So
they've got a whole, there's a place right up the road from here in the next town north of me called Thermal Body Scans of Orange County. So a quick Google search will tell you if you have something in your area. It is breast thermography. Thermogram, alternative mammogram, thermal breast imaging. And that's how they advertise it.
And if they do find something suspect, which, at one point they saw something with me, and they're like, you know what, just go get an ultrasound and, verify. And so I did an ultrasound, and they didn't find anything, so and that doesn't have the radiation either, like a mammogram has, and it's not invasive like a mammogram is. So, and then at the place that I use for that, and they may have those throughout the US, it's called HERSCAN, HERSCAN. And yeah, and they're mobile also. They actually, I had to do it in 2020. So I'm like, I wonder how this was like right before everything went really crazy. And they set up like in a hotel.
Yeah.
And they had like a conference room, and people scheduled all day long to come in and have ultrasounds. So it's outside of your regular medical, and they cost less than you actually doing it through your, providers.
That's what I was going to ask you next, since you've been doing this for 10 years. What has been, if you could give an average cost of what you've paid over the last 10 years per thermogram, like?
It's going to be more expensive than doing mammograms, because a mammogram is going to be covered under your well visit or whatever. I'm trying to remember how much it is, because I've just been doing the breast area, which is kind of the neck to belly button, that kind of whole area, and she'll do front and back. I want to say like 185, but I don't know that that's accurate.
Okay, but
I can put that in the show notes.
200, even if it's 200. I mean, so I was thinking you were going to come back with a much higher number than that. That's really not that bad. And I know that we're living in a world right now where money is something that people are focused solely on. But I want to say this. I want to say two things. One is, if you pay cash out of your pocket for medical expenses, you're going to get a lower rate overall, because the reason insurance is so high is because of that racket. The racket being insurance companies. Insurance companies are so specific with what they will pay for and won't pay for, that the medical practices have created these inflated costs for everything that you get done, so that the insurance will pay for it. It blows my mind. For example, a friend of mine years and years ago needed an MRI. And had that person gone to a doctor and gotten the MRI through his insurance, it would have cost upwards of $1,200 or $1,400. Instead, he went and paid cash, and this was 15 years ago probably. Instead, he went and paid cash for it for $400. So I believe personally that specialty clinics would much rather take your cash than have to fight the insurance companies. So always check to see if you can pay cash for something. And if the insurance doesn't cover it, it probably will feel like it's more expensive. But when you look at what you pay for insurance longevity wise, it's really much cheaper. I once read an article about a woman who decided that she and her husband weren't going to pay for their insurance anymore. She was going to take the money that they were going to spend on insurance every month, this was many years ago, so $100 or whatever, and put it aside. So every time they got paid from their job, she'd put that money into like a shoebox or something in their closet. And late in life, her husband got sick with cancer, I think. And he had to have a quadruple bypass. That's what it was. And this will tell you this was a long time ago, because I think the bills ended up being over $100,000. But because she had done what she had done, she had enough cash in those shoeboxes to pay for his medical bills without having to worry about any insurance rackets, any declines of any kind whatsoever. And she paid cash for all of his medical bills. Now, I'm not necessarily suggesting that you start saving money in a shoebox. I'm just trying to make a point. Our medical industry is a racket. A doctor in Michigan just got sentenced to something like 75 years in prison because he was telling people that they had cancer and they didn't, and prescribing chemo, because the kickback for chemo is so high that he made like $12 million telling these people that they had cancer, and killed several by putting them on chemo when they didn't need it. The medical industry is a racket, and I know there are really good doctors out there who took the oath and they lived by the oath. I'm not saying it's everybody, but I am saying that you really have to be discerning in who you choose and how you choose to pay for your medical needs.
Yeah.
You really do. And the other piece of that is, while I do know that they really try to connect cancer, since we're focused on breast cancer for this episode, I know that they really try to connect cancer as a hereditary thing, but 99% of cancers come from your lifestyle, the food that you eat.
Mhm.
It's like Sheri said
Right.
earlier, cancer feeds on sugar. And what is our diet? What is recommended to us every single day? We just watched a video. I just watched a video and shared it with Sheri on Instagram the other day, and I'll see if we can link it here, but it was a Fox News interview that was done with a guy that used to work for Coca-Cola. And he was talking about the marketing and the lobbying that these food companies do to the medical companies, to the FDA, to medical groups to get them to push their food. This is why we are seeing obesity at such a rate that we are. And it's also why they're not giving solutions for reversing obesity. Instead, they're just giving prescriptions for it, such as Ozempic, which is the newest, latest, greatest, supposed to be a diabetic medication. Oh my gosh.
Don't get us started on that again.
We have multiple, we'll link some episodes. We have 2 episodes already recorded on that drug, so we'll just pop those below too. But the point being is the pharmaceutical industry and the medical practices in this world, there are so many that are corrupt that it just is so important for you to take your healthcare into your own hands. And do not
You
think
really do have to.
that because that questionnaire, when you go get your mammogram, God forbid that you continue doing that after this episode, but when you do that, if you've put that you have history of breast cancer in your family, the likelihood of them telling you that something is wrong so they can get more money out of you is so much stronger. And it's not hereditary. Cancer's not hereditary. It's lifestyle. And it doesn't mean that you won't get it if you are living a great, healthy life. It just sometimes happens, but the reality is it's not because your grandmother had it that you would get it.
Right.
So,
right. Exactly. My mother never got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So she had a different kind of cancer, but she did not have breast cancer. So, yeah, I mean, and, you know, the toxins that we're getting are coming from all different directions. And they're coming from our air, they're coming from our water, they're coming from our food. And, you know, you lumped the big pharma and all that together. Well, big ag is right in there. Big food is right in there with them. They're all, unfortunately, working against us and not help us be healthy. And it's not conspiracy. It really is not. I mean, the more that I look and the more that I research into it, it's not conspiracy. When these food companies can send food to other countries and they change what's in them to make them healthier, that's just like ding, 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 red light, you know, that, you know, we don't want to think that they're doing this to us, but they're getting a lot of money out of us. And, you know, as far as health insurance, you know, like putting it in a box, because my husband and I have talked about that too. And we're actually, we're going to be doing that with our vision, and because we've always had vision and dental, because my husband's retired and now we don't have that insurance unless we pay for it. And it was like, that's like so much money that, I mean, if you have an issue, most of it is paid out of pocket anyway. So, you know, especially dental, that we might as well self-pay, because that's what it is when you put your money aside for it, you're self-paying for your own insurance and, you know, saving for that rainy day and I would say put it in another account, maybe get some interest on it, maybe not a shoebox, but, you know, you will have it for later. But there's also health insurance companies out there that I will be switching to as soon as my husband goes on Medicare. There's Christian share companies out there that you can use that are cheaper. And I mean, the whole premise behind them is amazing, because everybody groups their money, everybody pays into it. And when somebody needs to take out of it, then, you know, it's taken, you take out. And if somebody has an issue, you help. It's a lot cheaper than regular insurance. And they pray. They pray for you. When there are issues with different people, they send out prayer requests for people. So you're getting covered in prayer also throughout. And I just find that amazing. I really do. So I would have gone to that, and I had planned to go to that when my husband retired. But unfortunately, it was actually a little bit cheaper to stay on his insurance, which I don't really use. So, I mean, most of everything I do is not covered. So
Yeah. And I'm the same way. I have insurance through my job, which I've never actually used. I haven't been to the doctor in years, and I self-pay for vision and dental anyway. To me, I can go to Costco and get an eye exam, which I am actually looking at getting LASIK now. But I can go to Costco and get an eye exam for, $80. And then the most expensive part is my lenses. So, yeah, by the time I finish, it's usually $400 or $500 for glasses versus $400 or $500 a month for insurance that I'm going to use once a year. Doesn't make sense.
Yep.
Same for dental.
Well, and then I've heard, I know we've switched off breast cancer, but I've also heard, I thought this was pretty cool too. There are companies out there, and I haven't, used them, but I suggested to my husband that you can go online and pick 5 frames. They'll send you the 5 frames, and you pick which frames you want. If you don't like them, you send them back, and you get 5 more frames, and you find them, and then you send them the prescription, and it's a lot cheaper than going to wherever, optometrist or something, to get it filled. So there's all kind of options out there. We just have to look for them. And yeah, so yes. And right now, with the way everything is crazy expensive, you kind of have to pick and choose what makes more sense to you to get done. And know that, if you do go down the medical route, they may scare you about different things if they find something. So it's, knowledge is good. Knowledge is good in knowing what you have, but also being able to, if you need to walk away from what their suggestions are, if it's chemotherapy and you're not feeling like that's what's right for you, stepping back and tuning into God and asking, He is the healer. So yeah.
Always turn to prayer before you turn to anything that's toxic. I mean, should be turning to prayer for everything, but when it comes to your health, I would always pray before you go in, after you go in, if you get a diagnosis, use that discernment through God to make the decisions on your healthcare, because the medical industry is going to slowly kill you. There's no question about that. If they have their big pharma.
And like Leigh Ann said, it's not everybody. It's absolutely not everybody. I have friends who are doctors, and that's not their agenda. But there are some, like the one doctor that got paid millions. They're just, it's like what I tell my husband. It's like, don't leave money out in your car and make somebody who may be, not really a bad person, but they need money, so they break into your car. Okay. Don't entice people with things. And this doctor, whether he's good or bad, he was given an opportunity, and unfortunately he jumped on it and hurt people, killed people. So it's like, some people will not, they don't have the same morals, unfortunately. And the other thing I would say is, like, in the Bible, it calls it pharmakia. Pharmakia is also sorcery. So just tuck that one away.
Yeah.
And if you have something, feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
Both of us we know a lot about health. I did just finish functional nutrition counselor, certification, and I'm about to finish a functional nutrition and lifestyle practitioner certification like June 3rd. So not too long away. I'm excited. So yeah, happy to help and take a more holistic path.
Yes.
If that's what you want to do.
Yes, we all can use more holistic for sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, if you have any questions about mammograms or thermography or anything really that we spoke on today, please leave it in the comment section below and we will happily answer you. And again, we'll put links to Sheri's blog and her videos and the Ozempic videos that we did. Of course, we're almost always going to tie anything medical back into big pharma because we just really believe that that's a corrupt industry. So, again, if you have any experience of your own with false cancer diagnosis or something like that, we'd love to hear your story. Please let us know. If you would be interested in joining our podcast to share it, that would be amazing because it would definitely give some feedback and truth to, you know, what we share from our own personal experience and what we read. And other than that, please remember to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. Let us know if you have any questions or comments, and we'll see you next week. Bye.